The crystalline walls of the Grand Assembly Hall stretched higher than any building on Earth. Deho stood at the entrance, looking at the massive chamber that could hold 1,000,000 beings. He had waited 3 months for this moment. 3 months of sending messages, filing requests, and begging for an audience with the Galaxy Council. Today, finally, they would listen to humanity's plea. Giwan adjusted her tablet nervously beside him. She was Earth's best scientist, and even she felt small in this place. Behind them, Mireille carried the communication equipment, her young face filled with hope. She believed in this mission. She believed the galaxy would help Earth. They walked down the long pathway toward the center platform. Around them, thousands of alien species watched from their elevated seats. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others floated in the air without any visible support. There were beings made of crystal, beings that looked like walking plants, and creatures that seemed to be pure energy contained in suits. Humanity had only been traveling in space for 50 years. These civilizations had been exploring the stars for thousands of years. Deho reached the speaking platform and activated the translation device. Every species in the chamber would hear his words in their own language. He cleared his throat and began. Honored members of the Galaxy Council, I am Deho. Ambassador from Earth, I come before you today to request membership in this council and to warn you of a grave danger approaching our region of space. A ripple of sounds moved through the chamber. Some species laughed. Others made clicking noises that the translator couldn't interpret. Vortish, the council chairman, leaned forward from his elevated throne. He was a reptilian being, covered in dark green scales, with eyes that looked at Deho like he was an insect. A grave danger? Vortish said, his voice dripping with amusement. Please, human, enlighten us. What could possibly threaten the Galaxy Council? Deho remained calm. He had expected this reaction. The Krethic swarm. Our deep space sensors detected them 6 months ago. They are consuming planets at the edge of the galaxy, moving this direction. In 3 months, maybe 4, they will reach Council space. We have documentation, sensor readings, and projections. Guan stepped forward and displayed the holographic data. The images showed a massive cloud of organic ships, billions of them, moving like locusts through space. Planets stripped bare. Civilizations destroyed. The data was clear and terrifying. Kelmer, an insectoid council member, made a chittering sound that the translator rendered as laughter. And what does Earth propose to do about this threat? Deho straightened his shoulders. We offer our military assistance. Earth has a fleet of 3,000 ships. We have weapons, trained soldiers, and strategic expertise. We are ready to fight alongside you. The chamber erupted in laughter. It wasn't polite laughter or gentle amusement. It was mocking, cruel laughter that echoed off the crystalline walls. Mireille felt her face flush with embarrassment. She had never imagined this response. Vortush raised his hand, and the laughter slowly died down. Let me understand this correctly. Earth, a species that still uses chemical combustion to reach orbit, wants to join our military defense. You have no energy shields. Your fastest ships can barely reach half the speed of light. You still fight wars with metal projectiles. And you think you can help us? Another council member, a being that looked like living water, spoke up. Chairman Vordosh, perhaps we should not be so harsh. The humans are very new to space. They do not understand the scale of galactic warfare. Kelmer clicked his mandibles together. They are adorable, really. Like children playing soldier. Perhaps we should give them a certificate for participation. More laughter filled the hall. Deho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his composure. Beside him, Giwan's hands clenched into fists. Mireille looked down at the floor, unable to watch the humiliation. Vortosh stood from his throne, his full height impressive and intimidating. Humans, your concern is noted. However, the Galaxy Council has defended itself for 10,000 years. We have energy weapons that can destroy stars. We have shields that can withstand supernova blasts. We have artificial intelligence that can calculate 1 billion combat scenarios in a microsecond. What could you possibly offer us with your primitive technology? Deho met Vortosh's eyes directly. We offer courage. We offer determination. We offer the willingness to stand and fight when others might run. Vordosh smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. How inspiring. Unfortunately, courage does not stop plasma bolts. Determination does not deflect particle beams. Your offer is rejected. Yep. But the swarm is coming, Deho said, his voice rising slightly. They will reach Council space. The data is clear. If this swarm exists, the Council will handle it, Vortosh replied dismissively. We have faced threats before. We will face them again. As for Earth's petition for membership, that too is rejected. Come back in 1,000 years when you have developed actual technology worth discussing, Kelmer added. We will, however, keep you in our thoughts. Humanity has our sympathy, truly. It must be frightening being so far behind everyone else. The council members made various sounds of agreement. Some were genuinely sympathetic, but most were amused. To them, humanity was a curiosity, nothing more. Vortosh made a gesture, and the platform began to lower, carrying the human delegation back toward the exit. The audience was over. Earth had been heard and dismissed in less than 15 minutes as they walked back through the long corridor. None of them spoke. Mireille felt tears threatening to fall, but she held them back. Giwan's scientific mind was already analyzing what went wrong, but she knew the truth. Nothing had gone wrong. The council simply did not respect them. Deho walked with his head high, refusing to show weakness. But inside, anger burned. Not just at the council's arrogance, but at their blindness. They had the data. They had seen the evidence, and they chose to laugh instead. As they reached their small ship in the docking bay, Mireille finally spoke. What do we do now? Deho looked back at the massive assembly hall, at the glittering symbol of galactic power and pride. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. We prepare. We get Earth ready. And when the swarm comes, when the council is crying for help, we will show them what humans do. He paused, his expression hardening. They will regret this day. I promise you that. Juan noticed something as they boarded the ship. Several smaller species delegates had followed them to the docking bay. They said nothing, but their expressions were different. They looked worried. They looked like they wanted to speak but were afraid. The humans left the Grand Assembly Hall that day humiliated and rejected. But they left with something else too. They left with purpose. They left with determination. And they left knowing that when the galaxy needed saving, Earth would remember this moment. The laughter of the council still echoed in their ears as their ship jumped to faster-than-light travel heading home. But that laughter would not last forever. The swarm was coming, and humanity would be ready. 3 months passed since the humiliation at the Galaxy Council. Deho had not wasted a single day. He returned to Earth and immediately began coordinating the planet's defense. The politicians wanted to hide, to hope the swarm would pass them by. But Deho knew better. Hope was not a strategy. He stood now in the command center deep beneath Geneva. Watching the holographic display of the galaxy, red markers showed where the Krethik swarm had struck. In 3 months, 4 council worlds had fallen, billions dead. Entire civilizations erased from existence. And the swarm was still advancing. Admiral Heinwu entered the room, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. He was Earth's finest naval commander, a man who had spent 40 years in space. The reports are coming in from the council zones, he said grimly. It's worse than we thought. Ho turned from the display. Show me. Hyunwoo pulled up the tactical data. The council sent their finest battle fleets to stop the swarm at the Tarnos system. 3,000 ships, with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Energy cannons, plasma torpedoes, quantum disruptors, everything. And they lasted for hours. The swarm adapted to every weapon they used. By the 2nd hour, the energy shields were useless. By the 3rd hour, their weapons couldn't penetrate the swarm's bioarmor. By the 4th hour, there were no council ships left. Deho felt a chill run down his spine. For hours, the survivors reported that the swarm learns. It's a hive mind, connected across billions of organisms. Every time they've destroyed a swarm ship, the others learned from its death. Every weapon became less effective with each use. Juan entered the command center, carrying her tablet. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She had not slept properly in weeks. I analyzed the combat footage that the refugees sent us. The Council's technology is actually working against them, explained Deho said. The swarm adapts to energy signatures. It reads the wavelength, frequency, and pattern of energy weapons, then evolves its bioarmor to absorb or deflect that specific energy type. The more advanced the technology, the more predictable it is. Mathematical, precise, and therefore learnable. Hyunwoo crossed his arms. Our weapons are not like that. Exactly, Guan said, a hint of excitement in her tired voice. Our weapons are primitive by galactic standards. Kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, nuclear warheads. They work on basic physical principles. Momentum, blast force, radiation. There's nothing for the swarm to read or adapt to, not in the same way. Deho looked back at the display, his mind working through the implications. The Council laughed at our chemical combustion and metal bullets. But those might be exactly what we need. Alert signal interrupted them. A young officer called out, "Incoming transmission from the Outer Rim. It's marked urgent." The holographic display shifted, showing a refugee ship barely holding together. The being on screen was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She looked exhausted and terrified. "This is Telmara, of the Valesian people. My world fell to the swarm 5 days ago. We are requesting asylum. Earth is the closest planet that has not yet been attacked. Please. We have nowhere else to go." Ho made the decision instantly. "Grant them landing permission. Direct them to landing zone 7. Prepare medical teams and shelter." Over the next 2 days, more refugee ships arrived. Earth spaceports filled with beings from a dozen different species. All of them carried the same stories. Worlds consumed in hours. The Council fleets powerless to stop the advance. The swarm was unstoppable. Deho met with Telmara in person at the refugee center. She sat across from him, her hands shaking as she held a cup of earth tea. "You asked to speak with me personally," he said gently. Telmara nodded. "I was a military analyst on my world. Before it fell, I studied the swarm extensively. I know things that might help you. Tell me everything." The swarm is a collective consciousness. Billions of organisms, but one mind. It evolved on a world where survival meant constant adaptation. It consumes biological matter and incorporates useful genetic traits. When it encounters technology, it learns to counter it. But there's a weakness. Deho leaned forward. What weakness? The swarm has never encountered truly primitive warfare. Every species it has fought used advanced energy weapons. It has no experience with kinetic weapons, explosive projectiles, or nuclear radiation. These things cannot be adapted too quickly because they operate on fundamental physical laws, not energy patterns. Guan, who had joined the meeting, added, "That matches our analysis. The swarm learns from complexity, but simplicity confuses it." Telmara looked at them both with desperate hope. "Earth still uses these weapons. I researched your military before requesting asylum. You have nuclear missiles, railguns, chemical explosives, things the galaxy considers obsolete. But against the swarm they might work." Deho stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Earth's sky. Ships from a dozen species were visible in orbit, all seeking shelter. The Council had abandoned them all. The galaxy was burning, and no one was coming to help. He turned back to Telmara. "If we fight the swarm, we fight alone. The Council made it clear they don't want our help." "Then fight without the Council's permission," Telmara said quietly. "There are species dying out there. Children, families, entire worlds. Someone has to stand up." That evening, Deho called an emergency meeting of Earth's government leaders. The debate was fierce. Many argued that Earth should hide, should protect itself first. Why risk human lives for aliens who had laughed at them? But Deho stood before the assembly and spoke with conviction. 3 months ago, the Galaxy Council humiliated us. They called us primitive and weak. They laughed at our offer to help. And they were wrong. Not about our technology, but about our character. He pulled up images of the refugee camps, filled with frightened alien families. These beings have nowhere to go. Their governments failed them. The Council failed them. If we turn our backs on them now, we prove that we are exactly as small as the Council thought we were. But if we stand and fight, we prove that humanity is worth something. Not because of our technology, but because of our courage. The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would deploy its military fleet to face the Krethic swarm. Admiral Hinwu began immediate preparations. Earth's fleet was assembled, 3,000 ships of various sizes. Compared to Council vessels, they were small and outdated. But they were numerous, and they were crewed by people ready to fight. Sora, Earth's leading weapons engineer, worked around the clock upgrading the fleet's armaments. More railguns, more missile batteries, more nuclear warheads. If primitive weapons were their advantage, they would maximize that advantage. News of Earth's deployment spread through the refugee communities and beyond. Most thought humanity was committing suicide. A few, like Tel Mara, dared to hope. The Council sent a message to Earth, demanding they stand down. "You are risking your primitive fleet for nothing," the message said. "This is not your fight. Remain in your system, and perhaps you will be spared." Deho recorded his response personally. He looked into the camera and spoke directly to Vortosh in the Council. "You told us we were too primitive to help. You laughed at our offer, but we are going to fight anyway. Not for your approval, and not for recognition. We fight because it is right. When the swarm comes for you, remember this moment. Remember that the humans you mocked stood up when you hid behind your walls." He ended the transmission and turned to Hanwu. "Deploy the fleet. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do." The Tarsus system had 7 planets, 3 of them inhabited by peaceful trading species. It was also the gateway to the core Council territories. If the swarm took Tarsus, nothing would stand between them and the heart of galactic civilization. The Council knew this. That is why they abandoned it. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the flagship, indomitable, watching the sensor displays. His fleet of 3,000 Earth ships had just entered the system. Behind him, his crew worked efficiently at their stations. They were scared, he knew. But they were professionals, status report, Hyunwoo ordered. The Council evacuation fleet is still retrieving civilians from Tarsus 4. Lieutenant Bora reported from the tactical station. She was young, barely 25, but she was the best pilot in the fleet. They will complete evacuation in 30 minutes. And the swarm? Contact in 45 minutes, sir. They are coming in fast. Hyunwoo nodded grimly. The timing was going to be close. He opened a communication channel to the Council evacuation commander. "This is Admiral Hyunwoo of Earth's Defense Fleet. We are here to buy you time. Get those civilians out." The Council commander, a being that resembled a floating jellyfish, appeared on screen. His expression was difficult to read, but his tone carried disbelief. "Earth ships. What are you doing here?" "The Council ordered you to remain in your system." "The Council does not command us," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "Finish your evacuation. We will hold the line. Cannot hold against the swarm. Our fleets could not hold. You will die for nothing. Then we die. But those civilians will live. Now get moving." The Council commander hesitated, then nodded. "Your sacrifice will be remembered, Admiral." "We are not planning to die today," Hyunwoo said, cutting the transmission. He turned to his crew. "All ships, Battle Formation Delta. Prepare all weapon systems. Today we show the galaxy that humans do not run." The Earth fleet spread out across space, forming a defensive wall between the inhabited planets and the approaching swarm. Fighter craft launched from carrier ships. Weapon systems came online. Every ship took position. Bora was in her fighter, Calcine Thunder, leading a squadron of 50 pilots. She checked her instruments one final time. Her fighter was small, maneuverable, and armed with old-fashioned autocannons and missiles. Nothing fancy, nothing energy-based, just metal projectiles fired at high velocity. "Thunder Squadron, this is indomitable." Hyunwoo's voice came through her helmet. "You are cleared to engage at will." Hit them hard and stay alive. Copy that, Admiral, Bora responded. Thunder Squadron, stay tight. Remember your training. The swarm emerged from faster-than-light travel like a nightmare becoming real. Billions of organic ships, each one a living creature bred for war. They moved together with perfect coordination, a massive cloud of chitin and bioweapons. The sensor screens could not count them all. There were simply too many. On the Indomitable, Tajan manned the weapons station. He had been an artillery commander in Earth's army before joining the space fleet. The principles were the same, he told himself. Aim, calculate trajectory, fire. Physics did not change just because you were in space. Railgun batteries charged and ready, Tajan reported. Target acquisition locked. All ships Hyunwoo broadcast across the fleet channel. Fire at will. The Earth fleet opened fire simultaneously. Railguns launched solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missile batteries released thousands of projectiles. Point defense cannons created walls of metal death. The vacuum of space lit up with the fury of primitive human weapons. The swarm hit the defensive line like a tidal wave of claws and teeth. Swarm ships were living things covered in thick armor and bristling with biological weapons. They spat acid, launched spike projectiles, and tried to ram the human vessels. But something unexpected happened. The swarm ship started dying. Bora's fighter squadron tore through the swarm formations. Their autocannons chewing through bioarmor that had resisted energy weapons. The swarm organisms tried to adapt, tried to strengthen their defenses, but physical projectiles did not care about adaptation. A metal slug moving at 3,000 meters per second would penetrate regardless of how thick the armor grew. I've got 6 kills. One pilot shouted over the squadron channel. These things can't dodge bullets. Bora watched her targeting computer track a massive swarm ship. She launched 2 missiles and pulled her fighter into a tight spiral. The missiles, guided by simple heat-seeking technology, slammed into the swarm ship's core. It exploded in a burst of biological matter. Thunder Squadron, reform on me, Bora ordered. Hit the big ones. Clear a path for the capital ships. On the Indomitable, Tajan coordinated the railgun barrage. Each slug weighed several tons and traveled at a significant fraction of light speed. When they hit, they did not just damage the target. They obliterated it. Swarm ships that had survived plasma cannons and particle beams were torn apart by simple kinetic force. Target destroyed, Tajan reported. Acquiring next target. Sir, the swarm is not adapting to our weapons. Hyunwoo allowed himself a tight smile. They have never fought anything like this before. Keep firing, but the swarm had numbers beyond counting. For every ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. The human fleet began taking casualties. A destroyer was overwhelmed by swarm-boarding organisms. A frigate's hull was breached by acid projectiles. Fighter pilots died as swarm ships crashed into them in suicide attacks. Commander Minho led the marine defense teams on the Indomitable. When swarm organisms managed to board through a hull breach, his teams were ready. They wore heavy armor and carried flamethrowers, shotguns, and explosive charges. Weapons that would have been museum pieces on other worlds. Contact Deck 9, Section 12. A Marine shouted. Minho's team rushed to the location. The swarm-boarding organisms were nightmare creatures, part insect, part reptile, all teeth and claws. They screeched and charged at the Marines. Minho's flamethrower turned the corridor into an inferno. The swarm creatures burned, their biological armor no defense against simple fire. His team followed up with shotgun blasts and grenades. The fight was brutal and close, but the humans held. Deck 9 secured, Minho reported to the bridge. 6 casualties, none fatal. The bugs are dead. The battle raged for 6 hours. The human fleet fought with determination and skill, but they were being slowly overwhelmed. Ships were damaged, ammunition was running low, and exhaustion was setting in. Then something changed. The swarm began to retreat. At first, no one believed the sensor readings. But it was true. The massive swarm fleet was pulling back, withdrawing from the Tarsus system. For the first time since the war began, The swarm had encountered an enemy it could not easily defeat, and it chose to retreat rather than waste resources. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the crew erupted in cheers. Hyunwoo remained calm, but inside he felt immense pride. They had done it. Humanity had achieved what the advanced council fleets could not. They had stopped the swarm. Bora brought her fighter back to the carrier, her hands shaking with adrenaline. Half her squadron was gone, but they had won. They had actually won. The council evacuation fleet had completed their mission. All civilians were safe, and they had witnessed everything. The council commander opened a channel to Hyunwoo. "Admiral, I do not understand. How did you defeat them?" Hyunwoo looked at the view screen, at the retreating swarm fleet and the debris of battle. "We used weapons your people forgot about. Simple weapons. Honest weapons. And we refused to quit." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The humans had fought the Krethik swarm and won. The primitive species that the council had mocked had achieved the impossible. In command centers and refugee camps, on council worlds and independent colonies, beings watched the battle footage with disbelief and hope. On the Grand Assembly Hall, Almer watched the recordings in silence. The insects he had called adorable had just saved 3 billion civilians. He felt shame for the first time in his long life. Hyunwoo addressed his fleet. "Today, we proved something important. We proved that courage and determination matter more than advanced technology. We proved that humans do not abandon those in need. And we proved that the council was wrong about us. This is just the beginning. The swarm will come again, and we will be ready. For Earth, and for everyone who cannot fight for themselves." The crew of the Indomitable saluted. Across the fleet, exhausted but victorious crews did the same. They had lost friends today, but they had won something more valuable. They had won respect, earned through blood and sacrifice. The galaxy would never laugh at humanity again. The Battle of Tarsus changed everything. News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly wanted to know everything about these strange beings who fought with primitive weapons and won. Daeho sat in his office on Earth, reviewing requests for military cooperation. They arrived by the hundreds every day. Small species, independent colonies, even some council members secretly asking for Earth's tactical advice. The galaxy was waking up to a new reality. Giwan entered his office carrying a data tablet and 3 cups of coffee. She looked exhausted but energized. "You need to see this. We have been analyzing the battle data with scientists from 14 different species. When we combine our kinetic weapons with their shield technology, the results are incredible." She pulled up a holographic simulation. It showed a human railgun slug being fired through an alien energy shield. The shield did not block the projectile, but accelerated it, adding energy to the kinetic force. The impact was 3 times more powerful than either technology alone. The council kept their technology separate, Jiwan explained. They never thought to combine advanced shielding with primitive weapons. But when we work together, we create something neither of us could achieve alone. Daeho studied the simulation with growing excitement. This could change the entire war. "Have you shared this with Admiral Hyunwoo?" "He is already implementing it on the fleet." "But Daeho, there is something else. We are getting volunteers. Species from across the galaxy want to fight alongside us. They are bringing their own primitive weapons, things they abandoned centuries ago. Explosive projectiles, kinetic cannons, even some chemical warfare technology." Daeho looked out his window at the Earth's sky. Alien ships were arriving daily now, not as refugees but as allies. Small species that the council had ignored were finding their courage. They saw what humans did at Tarsus and decided they could fight too. But the council itself remained silent. No thanks, no acknowledgement, nothing. They were too proud to admit they had been wrong. That changed 2 weeks later. Yeonji was Earth's diplomatic attaché, skilled negotiator who had spent years trying to get council attention. She was in her Geneva office when the message arrived. It was marked with the highest priority seal. Directly from Council Prime, Chairman Vortish himself appeared on the communication screen. He looked different than he had 3 months ago. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like humility. Ambassador Yunji, I am requesting an immediate meeting with Earth's leadership. The Council needs to discuss military cooperation with humanity. Yunji kept her expression neutral. Chairman Vortosh, 3 months ago you laughed at our offer to help. You called us primitive and adorable. Why would we cooperate now? Vortash's reptilian features showed discomfort. Because we were wrong. The swarm has destroyed 6 more Council worlds since Tarsus. Our fleets are being decimated. Meanwhile, your forces have won 3 consecutive engagements. You have done what we could not. We need your help. You need our help, Yunji repeated slowly. But do you respect us? Vortosh was silent for a long moment. Yes, we respect you. We were blinded by our technology, by our pride. We thought advancement meant superiority. But you showed us that courage and innovation matter more. Please, billions of lives depend on this. Yunji looked at the chairman of the Galaxy Council, being of immense power and influence, essentially begging for humanity's assistance. I will relay your request to Ambassador Deho. But understand this, Chairman. If we help, it will not be as servants or junior partners. It will be as equals. Can the Council accept that? Yes, Vortosh said quietly. We can accept that. The meeting took place on neutral ground, a space station between Earth and Council territory. Deho led Earth's delegation. With him were Juwan, Hyunwoo, and Yunji. The Council sent their top military commanders and diplomats. The negotiations were tense. The Council wanted Earth's military expertise, but struggled to give up control. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Accepting human leadership was difficult for them. Deho remained firm. We are not asking to rule the galaxy. We are asking to lead the military response to the swarm. Your species have resources, technology, and numbers. We have tactics that work. Together, we can win this war. But you must trust us. A council admiral, a being made of crystalline structures, spoke up. How can we trust a species so new to space? You have been traveling the stars for only 50 years, Yunwoo answered before Deho could. You can trust us because we have already bled for your people. At Tarsus, we lost 400 ships and 30,000 lives to save civilians we had never met. We did not ask for payment. We did not demand recognition. We fought because it was the right thing to do. That is who humans are. The crystalline admiral had no response to that. Finally, Vortosh stood. I will speak plainly. The council made a terrible mistake. We judged you by your technology and ignored your character. We were wrong, and our people are paying the price for our arrogance. He paused, his voice becoming stronger. I propose that Earth be granted full council membership immediately. With humanity leading the military coalition against the swarm, all in favor. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Earth became a council member, and Deho was appointed Supreme Commander of Coalition Forces. The next 2 months were a whirlwind of activity. Hyunwoo traveled from system to system, training alien commanders in human military doctrine. He taught them combined arms tactics, strategic flexibility, and something the council had forgotten, the value of unpredictability. Your technology is predictable, Hyunwoo explained to a room full of alien officers. You calculate the optimal solution and implement it. The swarm learns these patterns. But humans do not always choose the optimal solution. We improvise. We take risks. We do unexpected things. That is our advantage. A tall, blue-skinned officer raised his hand. But does that not lead to mistakes? Yes, Hyunwoo admitted. Sometimes our improvisation fails. But the swarm cannot predict us. And in war, unpredictability is a powerful weapon. The coalition forces began implementing human tactics across the front lines. Small units acting independently, rapid response teams, decentralized command structures. The council's rigid military hierarchy became more flexible. Giwan worked with alien scientists to mass-produce hybrid weapons, kinetic cannons with energy acceleration, explosive missiles with quantum guidance systems, nuclear weapons with antimatter triggers. They took the best of both worlds and created an arsenal that the swarm had never encountered. The Coalition won 3 major battles in quick succession. At Vermilion Prime, human marines and alien shock troops fought side by side, clearing swarm hives from a colony world. At the Kester Nebula, a combined fleet used human flanking maneuvers to trap and destroy a swarm battle group. At Torian's Gate, Bora led a fighter wing of 17 different species in a coordinated strike that crippled a swarm carrier. Organism, the tide of the war was turning. But the swarm was learning too. It had fought humans now, studied their tactics, analyzed their weapons, and it made a decision that changed everything. Deho was in the Coalition Command Center when the alarm sounded. Red warnings flashed across every display. An intelligence officer, a human named Junho, called out urgently, "Commander, we have a massive swarm fleet movement. They are bypassing our defensive lines." "Where are they going?" Deho demanded. Junho's face went pale. "Sir, they are heading directly for Earth, the largest swarm fleet we have ever detected. They are going straight for our home world." The command center went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The swarm had identified humanity as the primary threat. It was going to eliminate that threat at the source. Deho's mind raced. Earth had defenses, but nothing that could stop a fleet this large. He looked at the tactical display, at the red marker showing the swarm's trajectory. They would reach the Sol system in 72 hours. He and Wu arrived at the command center, already suited up. "We are recalling every available ship. The fleet will reach Earth in 60 hours. We will be there before the swarm arrives." Yunji was coordinating with allied species. 20 different civilizations are sending ships to help defend Earth. They will fight for us like we fought for them. Deho looked at his team, at these people who had worked so hard to build the coalition. "This is it," he said quietly. "Everything we have done leads to this moment. The swarm is coming for us, and the galaxy is coming to help us. We are going to make our stand at Earth, and we are going to win." He opened a channel to every coalition ship, every allied world, every refugee camp across the galaxy. His face appeared on millions of screens. "This is Deho, Supreme Commander of Coalition Forces. The Krethic Swarm is heading to Earth to destroy the homeworld of humanity. They believe that if they eliminate us, the coalition will fall apart. They are wrong. We did not build this coalition through fear or force. We built it through sacrifice and trust. Earth stood for you when you needed us. Now, I am asking you to stand for us. Help us defend our home, and together, we will end this threat forever." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships from across the galaxy changed course, heading for Earth. Species that had never left their home systems volunteered to fight. The Sol system had never seen anything like this before. Ships from 100 different species filled the space around Earth, forming the largest military fleet in galactic history. Sleek Council warships flew alongside battered refugee vessels that had been retrofitted with weapons. Advanced carriers shared formation with primitive gunboats. The entire galaxy had come to defend humanity's home. Admiral Heinwu stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the tactical display. The coalition fleet numbered 50,000 ships. It seemed like an overwhelming force until you saw what was coming. The swarm fleet approaching Earth was 3 times that size, the largest concentration of swarm forces ever detected. "They want to end this war by destroying us," Hunwu said to his command staff. "They think if Earth falls, the coalition breaks apart." Taijan, now his chief weapons officer, studied the enemy formations. "Sir, even with our combined forces, we are outnumbered. And the swarm has adapted to some of our tactics. This will not be like Tarsus," No Huan Wu agreed. "This will be harder, but we have something they do not expect. We have Giwan's surprise. Deep on Earth's moon, in a massive facility built over the past 2 months. Sora worked with a team of human and alien engineers on humanity's final weapon. It was not a gun or a missile. It was something far more ambitious and dangerous. G1 arrived at the lunar facility, her face tight with stress. "Is it ready?" Sora nodded, gesturing at the massive array of equipment. We have positioned 300 nuclear-pumped gamma-ray emitters throughout the Sol system. Jupiter, Saturn, the asteroid belt, even in Earth's orbit. When activated simultaneously, they will create a web of high-energy radiation that will cook anything caught inside. And our ships? Juan asked. We have distributed shield generators to every coalition vessel. They are tuned specifically to block the gamma radiation our emitters produce. The swarm will have no warning and no protection. Sora paused. But G1, the power requirements are enormous. We are basically weaponizing our sun's energy output. If anything goes wrong, we could damage our own system permanently. Giwan met her eyes. If we do nothing, Earth falls. We take the risk. On Earth, Deho coordinated with military commanders across the planet. Ground-based defense batteries were ready. Planetary shields were at maximum power. Evacuation shelters held billions of civilians. Earth was as prepared as it could be. Murray worked in the communications center, managing information flow across the coalition. She had watched humanity grow from a mocked primitive species to the leader of a galactic alliance. Now, everything they had built would be tested. A message arrived on the priority channel. It was from Chairman Vortosh himself. Ambassador Deho, I am personally commanding the Council's battle group in this fight. Whatever happens today, I want you to know that the Council is honored to stand with humanity. Deho recorded his response. Chairman, we began this journey with your laughter ringing in our ears. We end it fighting side by side. That is all we ever wanted. Thank you for being here. The swarm fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. The sight was terrifying even through sensor displays. Billions upon billions of organic ships, moving with perfect coordination. This was not just an attack force. This was an extinction fleet. Hyunwoo opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Hunwoo. Today we fight for Earth, but we also fight for every world the swarm has destroyed. For every life lost, for every species threatened. Today we show the swarm that this galaxy belongs to the living, not to monsters. All ships, battle stations, engage the enemy. The two fleets collided in the outer Sol system, near Neptune's orbit. The battle was chaos on a scale never before witnessed. Thousands of ships fired simultaneously, creating a storm of projectiles, energy beams, and explosions. Space itself seemed to burn. Bora led her fighter squadron, now composed of pilots from 20 different species. They called themselves the Thunderwing, and they fought with coordinated precision. Human fighters with kinetic weapons, alien fighters with energy weapons, all working together. Thunderwing, focus on the command organisms, Bora called out over the combat channel. Big ones with the pulsing cores. Take them down. Her squadron dove into the swarm formation, guns blazing. A massive swarm command ship tried to swat them away with spike projectiles, but Thunderwing was too fast, too coordinated. They peppered the creature with missiles and cannon fire until it exploded. On the Indomitable, Tijan managed the capital ship weapons. The hybrid technology was performing beautifully. Railgun slugs accelerated through energy fields, achieved impact velocities that should have been impossible. When they hit, swarm ships simply ceased to exist. Forward batteries, fire, Tijan ordered. Target the carrier organisms. Deny them reinforcements. The battle moved closer to Earth with each passing hour. The coalition fleet fought brilliantly, but the swarm's numbers were overwhelming. Ships began to fall. A council cruiser was torn apart by a concentrated swarm fire. A human destroyer detonated its nuclear reactor to take out a dozen swarm ships. A carrier from an allied species crashed into a swarm formation in a final act of defiance. Commander. Minho's Marines fought boarding actions on 17 different ships, helping crews repel swarm organisms. They moved from ship to ship in armored drop pods, going wherever they were needed most. Every battle was brutal and close. The swarm pushed forward, getting closer to Earth. They were now passing Mars' orbit. The coalition fleet had held for 8 hours, but they could not hold forever. Deho watched the battle from Earth's command center. The moment had come. He opened a secure channel to Juan on the lunar facility. "Doctor, it is time. Activate the gamma array." Juan's hands moved across the controls. "Activating in 30 seconds. All ships, this is Coalition Command. Move to safe zones immediately. Code Phoenix is now active." Across the Sol system, Coalition ships broke off their attacks and moved to designated coordinates. The swarm, sensing victory, pushed forward aggressively. They surged toward Earth, their formations tightening to overwhelm the planetary defenses. That was exactly what humanity wanted. "Ray activated," Sora reported. "All emitters online. Firing in 3, 2, 1. 300 nuclear devices detonated simultaneously throughout the Sol system, each one pumping their energy into gamma-ray emitters. The radiation burst was channeled, focused, and directed into overlapping fields of death. The swarm fleet, caught in the middle of their charge, was engulfed in invisible fire. Swarm ships began dying by the thousands. The gamma radiation cooked them from the inside, disrupting their biological systems faster than they could adapt. The hive mind screamed silently as billions of organisms died in seconds. But the swarm was learning even now. The surviving ships began to cluster together, using the dead as shields. They pushed through the radiation, accepting massive losses to reach Earth. The queen organism, the heart of the hive mind, was among them. If it could reach Earth, it could rebuild. Hyunwoo saw the queen's ship on his sensors. A massive organism the size of a moon. "All ships, target the queen. Everything we have right now." The Coalition fleet turned as one and fired every weapon at the queen organism. Railguns, missiles, energy beams, everything. The queen's bioarmor was incredible, absorbing hit after hit. But it could not withstand the focused fire of 50,000 ships. Bora saw her chance. The queen's shields were failing, and there was a weak point near what might have been its equivalent of a heart. She armed her fighters' last 2 missiles and accelerated directly at the queen. "Thunderlead, what are you doing?" her squadron mate called out. Bora smiled. "Finishing this. Tell my family I love them." She cut off communications and pushed her fighter to maximum speed. The queen's defense organisms tried to intercept her, but Thunderwing provided covering fire. Bora flew through a storm of biological weapons, her fighter taking hit after hit. "For Earth," she whispered, and fired her missiles at point-blank range. The missiles penetrated the queen's weak point and detonated inside its core. The massive organism convulsed once, twice, and then exploded in a burst of biological matter. Bora's fighter was consumed in the explosion. She died knowing she had succeeded. With the queen dead, the swarm's hive mind collapsed. Billions of organisms lost their coordination, their purpose. They became mindless drones, easy targets for the Coalition fleet. Within an hour, the battle was over. The Krethic swarm was defeated. Silence fell over the Sol system. The Coalition fleet floated among the debris of battle, exhausted but victorious. They had lost 15,000 ships and millions of lives. But they had won. Earth was safe. The galaxy was safe. Deho stood alone on Earth's surface, looking up at the sky. He could see the ships in orbit, human and alien together. He thought about the journey that brought them here. From humiliation to heroism, Vordish's ship landed near Deho's position. The chairman himself emerged, walking slowly to where Deho stood. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Then Vordosh did something unprecedented. He knelt before Deho, his head bowed. "On behalf of the Galaxy Council, I offer formal apology and gratitude. We mocked you when you offered help. We laughed at your courage. We were fools. You saved us all.